Street Fighter as a series has some of the most iconic characters in video games and even fiction. You can't go 1 minute without seeing a character design inspired by Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, and especially Blade. Characters so recognizable and old should have some might to match their iconic status, right? You'd think so, but sometimes the games only focus on idealized versions of these characters, and as such they don't get much development outside of little bits of dialogue they have with other characters, and sometimes not even then. But with a little bit of extra work, you can give depth to characters that are decades old with little development outside of what they like and what they do in their free time. That is where Gill comes in. Introduced in Street Fighter 3, the new generation, Gill is far and away the strongest character in all of Street Fighter, and I personally believe he's the third strongest fighting game character ever. The other two are absurdly anime, and I'd have to actually look at all the fighting game lore and make that list to say definitively where Gill ranks, but we won't get into that right now. But who exactly is Gill though? He's the president, emperor, and leader of the Illuminati. They call it the Secret Society, but it's basically the Illuminati. He's theorized to be the reincarnation of the last president, and through genetic modification and intense training, Gill was given godlike strength and powers. He's also got a brother, Urien, who so desperately wants to be the president, he fought for the title and won, with Gill throwing the fight. Urien is technically the president, while Gill is the Messiah, which also makes Urien the Judas. All Gill wants to do is usher in a worldwide apocalypse, and eventually remake the world in his image, free of any strife and suffering, where any and all can live on and achieve their wishes, dreams, and ambitions. Sounds pretty deep and detailed, yeah? Well, this is about as deep as Street Fighter gets without any supplemental material that may or may not be canon. So how does Gill factor into character development for other characters? Well, let's direct our attention to Street Fighter V, Gill's most recent appearance and where we're getting our info. When Gill wins in a fight in versus mode, he has a win quote for every character that falls into one of 3 categories. 1. Appeal, appealing to his opponent's desires and offering them what they want in exchange for something. 2. Antagonism, Gill perceiving his opponent as a threat that has to be taken out if his plans are to succeed. 3. Fascination, interested in what his opponent's goals or visions are, or he is offering those who don't want or need anything a purpose and a reason to follow. There are a few that are weird and don't fit in any of them, so let's take a quick look at these attempts to give characters depth, starting with the first and most populated category. Appeal.
So power is what you desired.
This is for Akuma, which, come on now, you know why. But if you somehow don't, Akuma's one desire is to attain a power so great and unstoppable, he can achieve a state of being that is without weakness. He wishes to transcend humanity. Gill can't really grant that wish, but he acknowledges what Akuma is after. This one can also overlap into the second category of antagonism, since becoming a god doesn't really jive with Gill's perception of the future and himself. Not that a non-Oni Akuma would really be much of a threat to him anyway, since Gill can no-sell a raging demon like nobody else.
An undiscovered ocean. That's what you desire? Then fight for it, as meaningless as it may be.
Alex wants nothing more than to explore new horizons he hasn't explored. Self-discovery. He wants to see new places, new people, no matter what may get in his way, whether that be some rando who wants to fight, or his 3.5 brain cells. Gill will allow this, even if this kind of struggle means little to him.
A crude desire. I doubt that is what you truly want. You've just yet to discover that what you cherish.
This one's really neat because it's for Balrog/Boxer, and if you know Balrog/Boxer, you know he wants little more than fame and fortune, mostly fortune. He's only with Shadaloo so he can collect my fight money! Gill sees that he wants more. If we look back to Balrog/Boxer's story in both Street Fighter 4 and 5, we see that he saves a Psycho Power clone baby boy named Ed, whom he adopts and teaches how to fight. After being shown so much abuse by Balrog/Boxer, Ed leaves of his own accord, and Balrog/Boxer made it seem like he didn't care but did a bad job of hiding it at first. What Gill is saying is that maybe he cares more than he's letting on. Ed is the closest thing he had to a family since he was a child, and with him gone, he probably feels lonely. Balrog leads a selfish and violent lifestyle that leaves him by himself at the end of the day. When Ed left, he left a hole that no amount of fight money could fill.
A prosperous world that knows no famine. It can be yours if you so desire.
Birdie has had a weird time in Street Fighter. His first appearance in Fighting Street had him white, which was later retconned to him being sick. Then he came back in the Alpha games looking black, and then he finally came back in Street Fighter V looking real big, which is revealed to be the result of years of neglect and carelessness while working for Shadowler. Being hired by Karin Kanzuki and literally eating as much as he can every single day only accelerated the growth of his waistline. Though you could even impart that Birdie doesn't even just want it for himself. He's shown eating plenty with others in the story, like Laura, and is surprised when one of the dolls wanted to give him her food that he offered her. All Birdie wants is to never go hungry again, and Gill can make that happen. It's a really simple wish to grant, actually.
A vulgar beast would better understand the justness of my harmony.
Blanca being a beast man would better understand the kind of world Gill wants to bring. A world where every creature, human and animal, can roam freely, living their life. Blanca's always going on about how life was like in the jungle, even after leaving it. This is the kind of life that Blanca led for a long time, and a life he can continue to live if Gill gets his way.
If you're tired, you should rest. There is no shame in it. You fought well.
Out of all the characters in Street Fighter, very few have suffered more than Cammy. She's been fighting relentlessly ever since breaking free of her Shadowloo programming to make sure what happened to her never happens to anyone else ever again. She's also afraid that if she stops fighting, that if she lets her guard down for even a little bit, they'll strike again, and she'll feel responsible for not being vigilant. She's always been fiercely protective of the dolls in particular, even after they tried to kill her multiple times. Cammy has gone through so much, and Gill knows this. He's allowing her a peaceful rest that she absolutely deserves. Whether or not that rest has ulterior motives is anyone's guess, but the wording actually makes it sound genuine.
Do you already possess that which you sought?
Chun-Li has spent most of her adult life trying to find her father's killer, becoming the strongest woman in the world in her pursuits. She's wanted revenge for so long that she never realizes that revenge can never really be hers. Every lead in pursuit regarding information about her father always slipped through her fingers, and she never fully got closure. She only wants something to fill in the hole left in her heart from her father's death. Enter Li Mei, the young girl in the big Street Fighter V story mode. She eventually realizes that this little girl is the newfound presence to fill the void left by her dad that she's always needed. She doesn't want revenge, she wants family.
I will fight you if you so desire. Not that you stand a chance against a god.
Cody is bored. All he wants to do is fight to satisfy his boredom. It doesn't matter who he fights, whether it's a man, woman, child, grandma, ninja, animal. He'll fight anyone if it stops him from being bored. Even turning his life around with the help of his friends and becoming Metro City Mayor can't scratch that itch that only fighting others seems to reach. Gill can see this and will indulge Cody, even if it means he'll die. Although with how weird the power scaling in Street Fighter is and how Cody is in the top 10 of strongest fighters in the series, it's possible he could beat Gill. He has a better shot than most.
When you close your eyes, all you see is me.
Dhalsim practices yoga. Yoga in the Street Fighter universe isn't about finding balance and improving your flexibility. It's a whole-ass religion and belief system, one that is integral to who Dhalsim is. He believes that by devoting his life to yoga, he is given the ability to harness fire, like the god of yoga, Agni. Not to be confused with the DMC Agni. Dalsim is yoga, and yoga is Dalsim. Gill, believing himself to be a god among men, tells Dalsim that he is the one true god that he should pray to. And why shouldn't he? He wields divine flames as well. If Dalsim wants to stay true to his dogma, then following Gill is the way to go.
Fighting is a ritual to you? Then offer your prayers to me.
This is probably the ultimate example of a character finally getting depth after so long. E Honda has been in Street Fighter ever since Street Fighter 2. He's one of the first fat characters, as well as one of the first sumo characters in fighting games. Sumo is his entire personality and life. All he wants to do is spread the joy of sumo and nothing else. You know, kind of like a religion. Gill recognizes that sumo wrestling was once considered a religious ritual, and still is to a reasonable chunk of the sumo community. Whether or not Honda practices sumo as a religious practice, Gill sees how important sumo is to Honda, and asks that he performs this religious practice to honor him, the Messiah. Honda is certainly a devout enough person to whatever he sets his mind to.
I will grant you everything, from peace to freedom. Just sleep.
Falk is much like Ed, another clone that was given psycho power just for Bison to take over when his current body wastes away. Falk was consistently traumatized throughout her time in Shadaloo, and she is tired of fighting. Falk just wants to live her life with Ed and the other psycho clones. Through Gill, she can attain this peace and freedom. But she should rest first, cleanse herself of the pain and suffering she, Ed, and the others have gone through.
You should be with your family, for that is surely what you desire.
Go home and be a family man, Guile. In all seriousness, Guile's job continuously keeps him away from his family, and he hasn't had much time to see them, especially his sister and nephew.
Friends, love, mere trivialities. Everything is as it's been written.
All Ibuki wants is the perfect boyfriend and the bestest of friends. Nothing much else matters to this young lady. And to Gill, this is silly and doesn't matter to him. Things like companionship of a more intimate nature merely distracts him from his ultimate goal. He doesn't see her or the goals her ninja teachers give her as much of a threat either, if her endings in the Street Fighter 3 games are to be believed.
The land of prosperity. Fear not, for it is inside of me.
Karin is a noblewoman who has only known prosperity and victory. She wants nothing more than the exquisite, the best she can get. Gill offers her that kind of life, one grander than even she has ever known. Heaven on earth, but only if she joins him.
That's right, the time approaches.
Colleen is Gill's most devoted follower and knows exactly what kind of world he's working towards. She's ready to do whatever it takes to make it a reality.
You wish to develop your own fighting style? Then put your faith in me, for I am eternal.
Laura wishes only to develop the Matsuda-style jiu-jitsu and have it be known worldwide. She wants the hard work of her family line to be recognized and validated. Gill offers her the chance to have this fighting style known by everyone in his new world.
You could see if you'd just open your eyes, see my power and what's to come.
Minot's clairvoyant powers are almost on the level of her master Rose. Gill is asking her to really, truly focus her power and see exactly what kind of future he's working for. This is extra important to Minot because specific or crucial moments in the future continuously escape her vision. But to Gill, he can see exactly what will come.
Death. If that is the peace you wish for, Your wish is my desire.
Charlie Nash doesn't want to be alive. Let the man rest. He's been defeated, killed, and mostly forgotten, except by Abel and Guile, but not Chun-Li. What the fuck? All he wants is for the sweet embrace of death to be returned to him, because being this zombie homunculus sucks worse than all of that.
Is this a show? That's fine. When the time comes, the world will serve as the Emperor's stage.
All Poison wants to do is continue to fight for her self-expression and performance, to entertain others. Gill can give her that, claiming that all the world will be a stage for her to continue doing what she loves. There will be no shortage of people ready and willing to see what Poison wants to do.
Glory, victory, comrades, pour welcome to your foolish little dreams.
Similar to Poison, Rainbow Mika wants to wrestle for glory, victory, and her friends, to show that she can be a winner. Gill, thinking that what she wants is stupid and beneath him, will allow her to indulge in her ambitions. No harm in it, right?
Prostrated before me, hanging your head, truly a thing of beauty.
Vega/Claw wants to be beautiful in every sense of the word, but nothing is more beautiful to Gill than someone at his feet admitting defeat, especially one as vile as Vega/Claw. Vega/Claw can do whatever he wants. He'll never achieve true beauty like that. His pursuits of powerful women like Chun-Li and Cammy both coming up fruitless serve as further proof. This one also isn't in the second category because Vega isn't high enough on the Street Fighter totem pole to qualify as a threat in the eyes of Gill. He would merely find it amusing, even validating, that someone who has caused as much suffering and strife as him, standing no chance against him, is proof of his righteousness.
If it's a tempered body you seek, you should play with your opponent.
Gill knows he's the pinnacle of human ability, and suggests to Zangief that if he wants power and a body like his, he shouldn't take his fighting so seriously. Zangief takes his own personal lifestyle of muscle power to an uncomfortable extreme. Unless your name is Mika. Just play a little bit with his opponent and see where that takes him.
All living things age, weaken, and die. It's an inescapable fact.
Zeku is old. Not the oldest character in the series by a long shot, but still really old. His newfound ability to make himself younger and basically turn into a Strider will only work for so long. Whether Zeku uses his rejuvenation jutsu in an attempt to mask this fact seems like a valid observation, but when quotes with others suggest that Zeku is already aware of this. In fact, though Striders in their canon are known to live for hundreds if not thousands of years, they're still mortal and can die. Gill will remind Zeku about his mortality regardless, whether it's with words or actions. And besides, he's a god. These rules of entropy don't apply to him, right? Antagonism.
Power alone won't suffice. Destiny cannot be denied.
This is for Abigail, who, if you look at him, you'll see exactly what kind of power Gill's referring to. Not to mention, Abigail is weird and will get into fights with anyone for almost no reason out of sheer misunderstanding. Gill recognizes this and is informing Abigail that being a big, beefy boy who thinks he's a car won't be enough to stop him. Abigail may not necessarily be a threat to Gill and his plans, but he's merely telling the monster truck that running into everything headstrong and full of anger won't change things in the long run. He's not the unstoppable force he thinks he is, whereas Gill is a lot more like an immovable object.
And uncertainty? No, not yet.
Gill can recognize great power. He can more easily recognize great power if it's destined to be used against him to stop him in his quest. Does Ed have that kind of power? Kind of. It's raw, untamed, and not originally his. If Ed really tried and harnessed his power, he could prove to be a threat to Gill. He's kind of strong, but disproportionately cocky for how inexperienced and startled by strong enemies he is, and considering he's never seen in Street Fighter 3, it's possible he just fucks off somewhere.
To be mistaken about a kneeling foe. Pathetic.
Fong is a coward, first and foremost. Vicious and cunning, but a coward. He will do whatever it takes to survive, even if it means changing allegiances and swearing himself to the strongest person in the room. Gill sees this and only remarks on how pathetic this sight is, how Fong lacks any sort of pride.
An undocumented power. Is this person just a clown? Or perhaps...
Much like the general public both in Street Fighter V as well as in real life, Gill doesn't know how to properly process what the fuck G is. No one knows who he is and neither does Gill, so he can't really tell if this guy's a legitimate threat or just a hobo given the power of the planet. All we really know for sure is he's the president of the world.
Shake hands with the president.
Let me be the blesser of all.
You disappoint me.
Vacant one, I will grant you your demise.
Fuck Kage. All my homies hate Kage. Even Gill agrees.
The time is nigh. All uncertainty must be eliminated, no matter how trivial.
Gill doesn't want to entertain fools, let alone anyone who thinks they have more power than him. M. Bison/Dictator may be one of the strongest characters of the Street Fighters because Psycho Power is fucking busted, but Gill won't even acknowledge it. The Illuminati's plan in Street Fighter V story mode is consistent with this. Just eliminate him along with the rest of Shadaloo and carry on.
A variant. It must be removed for the sake of the time to come.
Necalli, despite being a weirdo who can turn into slime and vor other strong fighters, could prove to be a legitimate threat to Gill, and he doesn't want that around. Considering how hard Necalli gets sandbagged in the story, though, that ship is probably sailed. But if there's anything that Gill has no tolerance for, it's uncertainty.
I, Emperor Gill, will accomplish the grand schemes of our organization. My destiny cannot be altered.
Like I said before, Urien is to Gill what Judas Iscariot was to Jesus. All Urien wants is to usurp his brother and be the true Messiah. No matter how much Urien wants it, it's the one clear and concrete desire Gill cannot and will not grant. Fascination.
You need not be bold or arrogant. Gaze upon me. You're but a mere shadow of myself.
Juri has had a rough life. As a child, her parents were tragically killed after being targeted and hunted down by Shadaloo, and since then, she's wanted nothing more than to make everyone else suffer a similar type of pain. In some cases, even worse. The way Juri acts is because of her desire to make others feel pain, and Gill says that, like other humans, her place should be either by his side or at his feet, like a shadow. He's one of, if not the only person to genuinely offer peace to Juri, saying that there's no reason to be so cruel and vicious to people, despite the hard life she has lived. He suggests there's no reason to hold on to hate from a world gone by once his new world is a reality.
Hopelessness. Is that what you saw? How fascinating.
This one's actually a little obtuse, so here's the easiest way I can describe it. Gill's path to his ultimate goal is nearly endless, yet someone like him can actually see the end. Ken can actually understand what kind of path this is, a path that on the surface is little more than a bid for power, and he's seen where that ends up. Look at Akuma. He sees this path as hopeless, as there's no real end, and Gill doesn't get it because he knows what kind of end is in sight, and that he's the only one who's destined to reach it.
Who am I? I'm the Emperor, savior of the world.
In a game series that's full of karate dudes, secret agents, ninjas, tyrants, and more than a few genetic experiments, Lucia is the closest thing to a normal person that Street Fighter has, and Gill recognizes this, introducing himself to this civilian. Lucia is the commoner that Gill, in theory, would want to appeal to the most, and makes no secret about the grandeur of both himself and the world he is promising.
There is no need to ask why we fight. Everything will be in harmony when the time comes.
Like Ken, Ryu, and Sakura, who we'll get to in a moment, Rashid is a character who doesn't entirely know what he wants in life yet, or has nothing to be tempted with. Gill is merely telling him not to worry about the reason for the fighting, or the way the two of them conduct themselves. He's telling the aimless warrior that all things have a purpose, and his kingdom is that purpose.
The path. I see. So you've seen it.
Ryu and Gill are both following a path that are similar in nature, but different in eventual destination. Gill believes that Ryu is on the same path as him and is trying to appeal to him, remarking that they'll reach the same place by fighting for it, when in reality, Ryu's eventual destination doesn't exist. Ryu recognizes Gill's path, but not the end, because to Ryu, the path that you follow shouldn't have an end. Ryu's path is about self-improvement and adjustment. This contrast makes them both interested in why the other fights.
There are heights that mortal men can never hope to achieve. That's what it means to be Emperor.
Sagat has lived a long life of almost always fighting. He was both the king and the emperor of Muay Thai. He's more or less reached the pinnacle of human ability when it comes to Muay Thai, and doesn't really have anything that he truly wants because he's already achieved what he wanted to do. Gill is still above him, and he tells Sagat that even if he may also have the same title of emperor, they are not the same. Not even in the same ballpark. Sagat's goals and the path that he's walked to achieve that title pale in comparison to the prophecy Gill is destined to carry out.
You seem lost. All you must do is my bidding.
Sakura is not above temptation, but she doesn't know what she wants in life. In Street Fighter V, she doesn't know what to do because she's getting older, and fighting literally anyone other than Ryu doesn't really make her feel anything. She's a young woman still trying to figure everything out. Gill is offering her purpose in life in exchange for following him into his new world. Not even Ryu is offering that.
You appear to have no idea who you are.
I mean, this is self-explanatory. Seth's whole gimmick is that they're a blank slate that can perform the actions of dozens of other fighters, which means that they don't actually have an identity. They were created as a doll, built up, broken down, and rebooted, and mentally shattered beyond recognition. They have a name, but that's really it. Whether or not Gill would be able to genuinely help Seth should they choose to join him instead of using them as a pawn in his game is anyone's guess. The main point of this is that some of these characters have been in the public consciousness for decades now, and they still don't have great writing because Capcom believes that a name, ability, fighting style, backstory, and likes/dislikes makes a full character. But it took only a man god who looks like the Filipino flag and a smart writer to really inject more depth into characters we haven't really thought about in a long time. Would it be nice to see this kind of work done for characters like T-Hawk, Julie and Junie, Gokin, and Captain Sawada? Of course! But we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Special thanks to ABI of Sugar Punch Design Works for letting me kinda rip off his usual shtick when it comes to exploring characters in depth, and even more special thanks to my friend Flaw. He knows way more about fight games than me, and he helped me decode the meaning of some of these messages. Take care everyone, I love you.